In more than 150 years, Canada has had 23 prime ministers, all of them unique and quirky in their own ways. Joining us now for 10 questions on those leaders, J.D.M. Stewart. He is a high school history teacher and the author of Being Prime Minister. You're a teacher at Bishop Strawn School, right?
I am.
Congratulations.
Thank
I bet
you.
there's a lot of people who love history there just because of you.
Well, I hope so.
Congrats. Here we go. Ready for 10 questions?
I am.
Question 1. Which prime minister once caught a 30-pound shark?
Diefenbaker. And he was off the coast of Florida and pulled it in, and then had a little bit of a fracas with John F. Kennedy, who teased him about it later on. And so he got it stuffed, put it on the wall, and when Kennedy came to Ottawa in 1961, Diefenbaker made sure he showed him a copy of it.
Terrific. Question 2. What was the original name for the Prime Minister's residence, 24 Sussex Drive?
Are you thinking of the Welsh name?
I can't say it.
Okay, I can't say it either, but it sounds like something like Gorfwisfa,
Yes,
which means place of peace. So many prime ministers, Mulrooney jokes about it, it certainly wasn't a place of peace a lot of the time, but they've had a lot of family time, entertainments there, and Sussex Drive, as you know, is in a state of disrepair right now, and they need to fix it up.
Question 3. Which prime minister once postponed a war cabinet meeting upon learning that his pet dog had died?
Sounds like we're talking about William Lyon Mackenzie King and his pet dog, Pat. King had 3 dogs. All of them were named Pat, and he referred to them as the truest friends he ever had, and he was a devoted pet owner. And when one of his pets was dying, he wrote 20 pages in his diary about just how bereft he was about losing Pat.
We should remind people, never married, no children.
That's right. Yep. Bachelor
Pat
Prime
was like
Minister.
his children.
Yeah.
Question 4. Who was the only prime minister to have owned a chinchilla?
Okay, that's Stephen Harper. And the family was known for its love of animals. As you know, Lorene Harper was in charge of fostering some cats. They were cat people, not dog people. They didn't have dogs. They had chinchillas. There was actually bats on Sussex Drive's property as well. Towards the end of the Harper time in office, they set up a bat house in the backyard. So the chinchilla, whose name was, I don't know if it was Charlie or I can't remember, but they did have a chinchilla.
Okay, question 5. Which prime minister used to enclose $5 bills when returning letters from poorer people?
Right, so this is Prime Minister R.B. Bennett, Richard Bedford Bennett, Prime Minister from 1930 to 1935, which is during the Great Depression. Many Canadians were destitute. There was no such thing as employment insurance or other government benefits, so desperate people would write to the Prime Minister. And Bennett was a wealthy man individually on his own, so he would slip $5 bills into some of his answers and say, I hope this helps you with your situation. And there's even a boy who wrote to him and said, I really want to get a red wagon. And so he slipped some money into that envelope as well so the boy could get his red wagon.
Question 6. Not very many of the 23 Canadian prime ministers lived into their 90s. Can you name the ones that did?
That sounds like Mackenzie Bowell, Louis Saint Laurent, Charles Tupper, and am I missing a 4th one?
No, but well, not as we sit here today.
Right.
But
John Turner's 89.
John Turner's 89,
right.
so next
Yes.
June he'll turn 90.
That's right. It's interesting that some of the older, the older prime ministers were the ones that have lived. People born in the 1800s lived into their 90s. It's quite something.
Question 7. Only 2 of our 23 prime ministers died in office. Which ones?
Yes. John A. Macdonald, most famously, and John Thompson, 5 years later, died in office. So right within 5 years of each other. In Macdonald's case, this was probably an expected death. It came after the rigors of the 1891 election where he took ill. And the nation was in mourning, and Laurier said it feels as though part of the nation has given way with John A. Macdonald dying. And then Thompson was at Windsor Castle in London meeting Queen Victoria, having lunch there, had a heart attack, died at Windsor Castle, and was sent back home on a ship.
I think he's buried over there, though, isn't he?
No, it's only Richard Bedford Bennett.
Oh, R.B. Bennett's buried over there.
He's buried over there.
Right, good. Okay, question 8. And this is actually, there's no correct answer to this.
Okay,
it's whatever
good. That's the kind of quiz my students like.
It's whatever your subjective opinion tells you.
Yes.
Which prime minister of ours had the best nickname?
That's a good question. I don't know that any one comes out off the top of my head, but I'm going to go with John A. Macdonald and his nickname Old Tomorrow, because it's not a derivative of his name like Deef the Chief, Uncle Louis for Louis Saint Laurent. So I'm going to go with Old Tomorrow as the most creative one.
Good. Question 9. Which of our prime ministers was the best golfer?
That would be, well, it's going to be between Robert Borden, who we haven't mentioned on the show today, and Jean Chrétien, both inveterate golfers. And Borden would golf anywhere at any time. If it snowed, he would still set up a course somehow. He golfed on board ship by taking swings in a little golf cabin. So it would be Chrétien and Borden would have to vie for that.
And as long as we're talking about Chrétien, let's finish there with question 10.
Yes.
Have you ever been on the receiving end of a Shawinigan handshake?
I haven't, but fortunately I've been on the receiving end of a regular handshake. Chrétien is the only prime minister I've met while in office, and that was in 1999, so he's been gracious with his time to meet me.
Do you want to remind everybody what the Shawinigan handshake is?
That's when Chrétien was, 1995, there was a protest not long after, it was on Flag Day of 1995, and Bill Clement was getting in his grill, and Chrétien, who was just coming off the referendum, stress levels were running pretty high. He doesn't need someone in his face, and so he grabbed him by the neck and threw him aside and injured his teeth. But I think most people said, good on Chrétien for getting that guy out of his face.
Well, he had his sunglasses on too, so he kind of looked like a monster.
He looked a bit menacing. Yeah. And the behind-the-scenes story is the advance people for that particular day said, oh, the Prime Minister's going to have to wear sunglasses because of where the stage is. You've kind of screwed this up, and that's not going to look good. And so as it turns out, that's why he was wearing those sunglasses. It was for no other reason than poor advance that day.
Perfect. These stories and more in Being Prime Minister, J.D.M. Stewart's latest. Thanks, James.
Thank you.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.